So today is the day I'm sitting down with the gorgeous Lexi Ainsworth, the day before summer solstice, may I just say as well. So listeners out there, whenever this recording reaches you, just know that you're getting a huge amount of sunshine, not just from Lexi and myself and whatever we get to tell you and create here today, but literally from the fact that ancestors for thousands of years all around the world, especially in the northern hemisphere, would have been coming together around this time of year to celebrate the longest day of the entire year, summer solstice. So I hope you are looking forward to this episode. I have been so excited to meet up with the gorgeous Lexi here. Lexi, my love, I'm going to read out your bio just so listeners out there know why I'm sitting down with you today. So with 20 years of on-screen success, Lexi Ainsworth has transitioned from an Emmy Award-winning actress to the founder of Camden Way Productions. Specializing in development, Lexi brings extensive experience in script analysis, honed through her work on a TV series spanning 510 episodes. Lexi possesses a sharp eye for compelling narratives while balancing commercial viability. Following a strategic move to London under a global talent visa, Lexi is ideally positioned to bridge the UK and US markets, leveraging her expertise in high-pressure environments to develop and pitch impactful stories that resonate globally. So excited to have you. Thank you for being here, Lexi.
Thank you for having me. That's quite the introduction. I haven't heard it actually said out loud. So it's very affirming.
I love it. I hope you sit a little taller and you sort of like you really take up a little more space now. And I want to say, Lexi, that's pretty much everyone's reaction when I read out their bio. Everyone either shrinks and they're like, "Oh God, this is actually me," or they get a little taller. So you're right on track, honey. Everyone has that reaction when because I think it's also like, even though you know it's you, it's still when you hear about yourself in third person, right? It kind of does something.
Yeah.
100%. Well, anyway, let's begin as with everything with these podcasts, honey. I always ask people to go back in time because we cannot understand why you became why you made the choices you made, why you and I met all of that without going back to the very beginning. So just like in the fairy tales, a long time ago, where were you born and what kind of family structure, belief systems were you born into?
Okay. I am originally from Oklahoma City. And yeah, my dad is a dentist, first person in his family to go to college, put himself through school roofing houses, so a really hard worker. So he was definitely someone that I looked up to and admired. Just whenever I'm struggling within my own career, I think about, all the sacrifices that he's made. And my mom, she is an artist. So that's where I get my creative brain, and all the love and support that both of them have given me throughout the years, and to be able to do what I have been pursuing for over 20 years now. So I started as a child actor when I was 11. So yeah, my parents really just nurtured this chaotic energy that I had as a child. They just threw me into everything. I played every single sport, gravitated towards the performing arts. So I grew up doing ballet and musical theater, and then that led into TV and film world.
Amazing. And do you want to share with us a little bit? So you mentioned that, your parents are super supportive and they were like, okay, she's got so much energy, we're just going to expose her. But do you remember specifically, like, give us, like, did they come to you and go, Lexi, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Or, was it friends of yours that were doing stuff like, or did you just, for instance, I fell in love with ballet because I watched 2 seconds of the Nutcracker on TV when I was 6 years old. And I was like, I want to do that. And my mom was like, absolutely not. But you can, we can have a go at a little amateur school. That was my beginning. And, back to you.
Um, I don't know. I don't think ballet was necessarily a choice, but it was something that I really enjoyed. Even though I mean, I have had ADHD my entire life. I was first diagnosed when I was in kindergarten. So it was difficult for me to sit still. But I actually sort of craved the structure that ballet gave me. Even though I was probably the most disruptive in the class. Um, but wait, I lost my train of thought.
So basically, that's cool.
And yeah,
Oh, babe, that's so on point. Representing ADHD rights.
exactly. That was a moment.
Oh, honey, all I was asking was, do you remember if there was any specific point? So as you were there, in kindergarten, growing from complete toddler into, being able to walk and do your own thing. Do you remember if is there a specific memory where you went? Because I know you're doing all these different things, but where part of you was like, oh, this feels like home. Like this feels really good. Like I want more of this. This is not just I'm dipping my toe into something or.
I don't know if there was ever like an aha moment. I think I was always someone that loved to play make believe in my room by myself, having imaginary tea parties, putting on my British accent, and um, yeah, just the world of make believe was always from the very like my earliest memories. That's just something that yeah, yeah, I don't think there was really a moment that it just felt like a natural progression. And yeah, I did have friends that I think that's how I got into the on-camera acting class that I took. Um, with ballet, yeah, that was I think something that my parents put me into. Musical theater, I was 6 when I started that, so I could not tell you. Don't remember.
Right. I totally love it. And I just want to share a brief memory because, when you said imaginary tea parties in my bedroom, I was like, I just saw myself and I have not. I'm really sorry, listeners. I don't know if this is boring for you guys, but like, honestly, Lexi, I just had a minute to go, no, more boring as in like my story, but I want to share this because I think we can all relate. When you said imaginary tea party, I had totally forgotten that I used to spend hours in my bedroom with the tea party and I just saw the little so I had two sets. One were like plastic cups in light blue with some little random fake china something, and then I had another set which was also plastic but in like pale pink, and it just came
Mm.
back and I even remembered the smell of the cups. Like that's how vivid it was when you were talking about your little imaginary tea party. So I just wanted to share, like, thank you so much because I had forgotten about that memory. And now
Oh.
I feel so nourished. Remember, having this reminiscing moment, even though we had tea parties on different continents, different moments in life. But I think it's just something we could all resonate with. I love that. Well, let's go into a moment then. So here you are, you're doing this class for TV, I guess. And then from there, were there just castings around? Like, how did you get from there to then all of a sudden being a full on actress? What took place?
So the acting class that I was taking from back in Oklahoma, they had a workshop going on with this manager from LA, and she does like a summer program every year in LA, and I somehow convinced my mom to take me out there for the summer. And yeah, I got to be surrounded by all these other kids that were passionate about the same thing as me, and it was so much fun. And then at the end of that program, there was a showcase with agents, and so there was an agency that wanted to sign me, and we're like, okay, cool, like that was fun. Like have to go back to home and like go to school and everything. And they were like, oh no, now that you're signed with us, you have to stay here. And we're like, well, what about school? And they were like, oh, well, you homeschool. And like back in Oklahoma, like the only people that really are homeschooled are people that live like on a farm or maybe who are quite religious, not anything to do with like completely different world. So fortunately, my mom used to be a teacher. So she did have that background. So I was homeschooled for a bit during the initial stages of the back and forth because it was back when there were more like seasons in terms of like TV and film where you have episodic season and pilot season. I would just go out to LA there with my mom and just audition and then go back home. But it just then became more and more time in LA as the years went on, and got to work a bit more, and it was more consistent, and it just made sense to like make the move full time starting in high school, because I really wanted to be in like a normal high school. But the irony of that is that it was like the complete opposite. Like I just had all these visions of like being a cheerleader, like seeing, the movies of like prom and all of that kind of stuff. And I wanted that. And I went to like, I don't want to say the opposite of that school, but it was like, it was perfect for me. Um, it, it allowed me the flexibility. It was really hard to find a school that let me leave for auditions in the middle of the school day. And so I was able to sort of structure my my core classes in the mornings, and then in the afternoons when it was more like electives, I could sort of get out from school and do auditions if I needed to. But yeah, we didn't have a football team because they didn't believe in contact sports, and there weren't cheerleaders because they didn't believe in like a social hierarchy. And we had vegan Wednesdays, which I thought was fun. We had people from farmers markets come to our school. And we didn't have a cafeteria. We had these like blankets that we'd get out of this cupboard and just lay on the grass, and people would bring their guitars or their turntables and just like jam out. And yeah, very California. It was a school in Santa Monica, which is where like I ended up. But yeah. And
oh my God, it sounds so wholesome. I love that we had a blanket each instead of a canteen. Brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, it was really special. It was like the perfect school for me, because school was never something that I enjoyed. I think it was really a struggle for me with like my learning differences, I guess is what they call them now. And yeah, it was like the first school that just felt like I could manage things. But there wasn't anything that was like wrong with me. It was just sort of like the previous structures just didn't fit like the way in which like I work. So my brain works. So it was a really positive experience for me.
Oh my God, I love that. And I just want to ask, so when you went for that initial, summer school in LA, where you then ended up being like, oh, now there's agents watching the show, how old were you?
I was 11.
So at 11 years old, you turned around to your mom and was like, hey, you need to do this thing for me. And this makes sense for you because XYZ.
I honestly can't tell you how I proposed. I mean, it is LA. I don't think I had to twist her arm that too hard though. She's like, oh, okay, LA for the summer. All right. But I think it wasn't until I don't think, especially more of like my extended family, they didn't really take it seriously until I was doing more substantial work. And then they were like, oh, wow, okay, this is like a career for her, not just like a hobby or a passion. And I think the moment for my grandma, she came out to see me play Scout and To Kill a Mockingbird when I was 13. And that I think was the moment, which is interesting. I don't know why that was the moment for her, but I mean, it was a lot of work. Like theater is, I have so much respect for people who do theater, because it's exhausting physically, mentally, emotionally. A lot more labor goes into it than just, being able, you can't like call cut. Like the show must go on. Like whatever happens, happens, and you have to find a way to make it fresh every single night. And yeah, it's amazing.
I couldn't agree more. And it's actually one of the reasons why I've always loved theater. I mean, so of course, I love to sit down and watch a movie. I've been in a few films myself, but the actually being on stage and having that live interaction like you and I right now, right? And hence why the same way, like I told you before the podcast, I do not edit. I want it to be just completely present, completely fresh, completely whatever happens, happens, because that's life. And for me, that's exciting. I love that we can't redo it in a way, because that's also what our life is, right? We can't go back in time and go, well, you know what, that chapter, it was kind of shitty. I'm going to redo 8th grade right now. It doesn't happen. I love that.
Yeah.
There's something quite juicy, Lexi, that I just want to share, and as in I want to ask you. You said it wasn't until that particular performance where your grandmother came out to see you, where you felt like the family started to take you and your acting seriously, like they realized that this wasn't just a fun gig for you, it wasn't just a hobby, it wasn't just a little side hustle. This is an interesting point, that because obviously that's not psychoanalyzing you, but it's an interesting point because from my perspective, right, you were 11 when you've convinced, and I know you said it's still nice for your mom to go to LA, but you're the one who was like, hey, we should do this. That's extremely driven. And then once people are like, hey, we want you in the show, you somehow also continue to get your parents, and maybe they were already on your side in the sense that, yeah, this makes sense for Lexi. We're on board. Like, you and your mom are just going to go back and forth, but it's a huge amount of work. And even if your parents were fully like super supportive and all the rest of it, that is a huge amount of work. And that would have taken, a huge amount of work on your side, on the family side, all of that. So it's an interesting one. Can I ask you, that must have felt difficult if you felt like after years of doing that and you still had this kind of feeling that they didn't fully take it serious yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't think I tried not to let that get to me. I don't think it was something, I think for me, more of like the hardest part was probably the fact that I was very aware that my mom and I were spending time away from my dad and my sister who were still back in Oklahoma. And so I think because of that, not that they put that pressure on me, but it felt like I need to make sure that the sacrifice is worthwhile, and that to me, failure wasn't an option, like whatever failure meant to me at that time. And so that was a lot of the driving force, I think, behind it. Obviously, my passion, but then the weight of knowing what other people are giving up in order for me to be able to do what I'm doing. Yeah.
I can so resonate with that 100% because that's how I felt when I came to London. And, my whole family were there. Like the first 2 years, they were financially supporting me. And then even when, at 18, I'd managed to get a lot of work myself. So they didn't have to do that anymore. But still, like that feeling of like, I know that we're all sacrificing here because we're not together. And I felt so guilty, so ashamed for having pursued my own happiness, knowing that, as much as my family was supportive of me, I also knew that they missed me a lot, right? And so I can so relate to that feeling. Like my heart just sank a little bit listening to you. So just, yes, I get you, hun. So, okay, well, let's lighten up the mood. So here you are, Santa Monica. Cheers. With my charcoal looking like water. So here you are in Santa Monica. What happens next? What happens in your life? Where do you go?
So once we move full time, when I'm in high school, living in Santa Monica, freshman year, really cool, was surfing for PE, was auditioning here and there. But I started to miss my friends quite a bit back home and my family, and things had sort of like slowed down in terms of work. And I was really lucky at that time, like not having anything lined up for 6 months was like a dry spell for me. So it had sort of been that 6 month mark, and I was getting a bit anxious and felt like, okay, is this still like a viable option? Like I'm missing home, like maybe we should just go back. And my mom was like, why don't we just give it until the summer? If you don't book anything, like we can go back. And it was during that time that I auditioned for this role on General Hospital, which is like one of the longest running soaps, maybe the longest running soap now. And it was initially, I think, just a recurring role. So I went through 1, 2, maybe 3 auditions, like one audition and then a callback and then another callback, and then you have the chemistry read, and it's like this whole long process. And then you have like a test day where you then go on to set and they just, yeah, see how you interact with the rest of the cast, and if you take direction with the director, and because it's multicam, it's a bit more technical. It's different than like um any other form of TV and film where it's just like single camera. Um, so you really have to make sure you're on your mark, and it's a bit like theater in that way. The blocking is extremely important, but all of that to be said, I ended up booking that. And so that was sort of I think the universe saying, this, you need to be doing this. This is, you're supposed to be here. So I just needed that sign and that like encouragement to keep going, because I think it can be so tough in this industry, because it's just a lot of ups and downs. And yeah, and that was one of those moments for sure. But that obviously complicated things with school. So I was set school, and again, a little bit of back and forth between school and work. And so I eventually just graduated like a year early so that I could focus full time on work, because we were filming 5 days a week. So it was quite a bit.
So tell me, 5 days a week, how old were you at this point?
I was 16, so it was the same day that I got my driver's license, I booked the show. So it was like probably one of the best days of my life.
Oh my God, I love it so much. And just like, can we just have a little moment, a little pause, a little window into what it was like to be Lexi Ainsworth on that particular day? You just call it the luckiest day of your life. So just talk us through it a little bit. So obviously you knew that you might find out, one of these days if you had booked the show or not permanently. You were maybe doing your driving test that morning, or talk us through it. What happened? You woke up. What took place?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think my driver's test was in that morning, early that morning. And then I would say maybe around, gosh, this is such a long time ago, but it felt very early. So we'll just say like 9 a.m. And then I got a call from my manager in like the early afternoon. And yeah, with these things, like you never know. Like I try not to, with any audition, I try not to think about it too much after. I just do it and then forget about it, because if I think about it too much, it just makes me, yeah, there's just so much out of your control. So I just sort of assumed that I didn't get it. And then when I got the call from my manager, I can always tell like the way that she sort of like words things to lead up to it. And I was like, is she about to tell me that I booked this? And yeah, and of course I was screaming, jumping up and down. And I might have even cried, if I remember correctly, because it was a pretty life-changing moment for me. And yeah, they offered me a contract. So it was a 4-year contract.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was a really, yeah, one of those moments where you're like, wow, my life is about to change. Yeah. So the weight of that, it was very cool. And it just felt very rewarding, um, for my parents, I think. For me, for my parents, like knowing that was sort of like okay, we're doing the right thing.
A
Um,
hundred percent. And it's also this thing of like, I really love, because it's how we started the podcast. It was this thing of like, you had put everything on the line, and so had your parents. Like there wasn't there wasn't like, oh, plan A, B, C, D, and so you had, your feeling was, I have to make it work, versus exactly the same as mine, right? It came over, I was like, I have to make it work. And so I can so resonate where you were doing that thing of like, okay, you're there talking with your mom, your parents, I'm assuming, and you're there going, well, should I just go home? Like, I haven't had really anything much going on work-wise over the last few months. And your mom is there going, we'll give it for the last 6 months. It was such like not a make or break, because, of course your life wouldn't have been broken. You weren't broken. You would have had a different life, right? A beautiful life,
yeah.
a different life. And here you were. And, this pivotal moment where it wasn't even just for like a one-off show, a quick season. It was 4 years. Like I'm sitting here gobsmacked. I can't believe that they gave you a 4-year contract. How incredible, Lexi. And then what
Yeah.
happened? Did you live in LA, Santa Monica by yourself? Like what was life like for you? Talk us through like an ordinary day once you started filming, perhaps something like that.
Well, we moved around a lot, my mom and I, because of the back and forth. So we would, just be in an apartment for a few months and then we would move somewhere else. And my mom was used to doing that as a kid because my grandpa worked for did disaster work. He worked for FEMA, like for the Red Cross. So that was like normal for her. And so that then became my normal where we're just like in a new place like all the time in like different areas around LA. Um, so yeah, we moved a lot. And then yeah, ended up in Santa Monica. Um, and then moved eventually like closer to the studio, which is in sorry, maybe I should shut this window.
That's all right. So whilst we sit here in anticipation, waiting for Lexi to figure out where was it? The studio was nearby.
Yeah, should have thought about that.
That's okay.
The studio was in East LA and Santa Monica is in West. So it was a bit of it was like kind of almost like an hour commute. And so we decided to move to West Hollywood, which is just a bit more convenient. Um, and yeah, but I didn't live on my own. My mom, I mean, because I had started at such a young age, like my mom was almost like my second manager. So she uh was very close with my agents and my managers at the time. And I couldn't like in the beginning, I couldn't drive myself to auditions and or discuss like my schedule or contracts, availability, all that kind of stuff. So um yeah, I think it took a while for us to sort of make that transition, um, being like a kid in the industry to then being an adult. And also just like the dynamic between my mom and I changing. But that actually I feel like didn't happen for a long time after that. Um, Probably more recently. There are so many things that I didn't really think about. Like I didn't know how to do my own hair because I had other people doing it for me, or my mom would had done it when I was, for auditions, and didn't know how to do my own laundry, which is embarrassing to say, but yeah, so there are so many things that I had to learn later in life that I felt like, a lot of my friends moved away, moved out of the house like when they were 16, 18, some of them to move to LA for acting, and they were very independent, like, and they knew how to file their taxes and do all these things and like change a tire. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that. I feel, yeah.
Oh my God, I can relate so much. But I think it's also about interest, right? So of course, one thing is you did have your mom there. I get that. But there's also the other thing that, so I moved to England by myself at 16, but I was, anything domestic. And to be honest, still to this day, I love everything to be clean, but like beyond that, I'm like, I cook everything in one pot because it's quick.
Yeah.
I love yummy food. I do not love, like, I love a quick cook. I do not love a 2 hour preparation. It's just not me. So, I'm 40 now. It's taken me a very long time to just find a way where I'm still getting the kind of normal things done, but I'm doing it the Josie way. So like when I first moved over here, I was sharing a flat with 500 different people, and I would always get a text from my landlady who lived with us being like, Josie, you forgot to empty the washing machine. Like it's still there. Or like, hey, you forgot about you're supposed to clean the house today. All I'm
I'm so
saying
glad
is,
I'm not the only one.
oh no, so, honey,
Yeah,
you
okay.
are, and I'm just saying, like, listen, even if my mom had been here, like, I'm sure I would have been the same. So I can so relate. And also just that thing of, on that whole note of, it's also about what's your interest or not, right? So like finding, and I still don't have a driving license, right? So I started 2 years ago when I met my gorgeous American boyfriend, now
Yeah.
fiance. He was like, "You don't have a driving license?" I was like, "I've never needed one," and I thought, "Let me try." So did a few classes, and I was like, "I hate this." And so I was like, if I one day need it, I will do it. I have
Yeah.
put enough money into it. My point is, everything is interest based, right? Like it's your life. So I'm just saying you have full permission. If you needed it from anyone, you don't. But I'm with you, make it work for you. And I can totally get the whole like, hey, I never had to do this by myself. So there's no way how would I know what program to put the washer on or whatever, right? So got you.
Yeah. I can say that I do know how to do those things now, but it was a journey,
Sure, I'm
part of
sure.
adulting. Yeah.
100%. But anyway, so then you were there, you're on the show for 4 years. Then coming up towards the end of the 4 years, because this was another big moment in your life, right? Going, okay, well, I don't know if there was a possibility to continue, or you at this point wanted different things. Where were you at? Another big pivotal moment.
Yeah, soaps are so funny. I was just shy of my 4-year contract and they wanted to age my character. So yeah, so they
That's a first.
but like they could only do that in a soap. I think they struggle with writing for they normally have like teen storylines during the summer when kids are, you know, not in school and can watch, more of their age like demographic. But yeah, I think they just struggled to write for my character. And yeah, they wanted to like they tried pairing me with some people that were much older. I'm like, why can't we just find someone my age and why anyway? So they aged my character and then they got rid of that character for several years. And during that time, there was a big shakeup. The head of ABC Daytime at the time, and a few of the producers were let go. And so then it was basically new management. Then came in and then wanted me to come back recurring, which is actually so then I did that for 7 years. But obviously there was a lot that happened in between that time period. But um yeah, and I didn't think that I was gonna go back. But yeah, so it was like 3 years basically the contract, and then when I came back it was 7 years recurring. So it was a total of 10. But I mean, compared to the other people on the show, like some of them have been on there for like 20, 30 years.
Oh my God, so you were still a newbie. You were still the new
Yeah,
kid on the block, even at
yeah,
like,
yeah.
going into your like 10th year almost.
That's kind of how it felt. But yeah, I mean, it's such a unique experience. Like, it's so rare to be able to be on something for that long. And those people, like my family on that show, become like my family in real life. And yeah, it's just like this strange, special bond. It's like a big dysfunctional family.
Oh my God, I need to know more. So, basically, so you see the family that was on your show kind of became your family in real life, as in like you spend so much time with them. So I'm assuming, so where was it really? Did you find like, was your friendships and all of that, your friendships you had, were they all with people there, or did you have a lot of friends outside? Because obviously it's such a specific universe, and in the end of the day, friendships are based also on similar interest and similar, commonality. And sometimes if you're part of a world, like again, when I was at Royal Danish Ballet, I had zero friends outside, not only because I didn't have time, but also what would I really have had in common as a kid, right? So anyway, back to you. How was it for you?
I think, yeah, especially in the early days before I got my driver's license, before all of that, like it was mostly just friends through work. Um, but a lot of the people on the show at the time were older than me, so I didn't really hang out with them outside of work. It was mostly just they like sort of took me under their wing and like showed me the ropes and um like mentors, so to speak, versus like colleagues, which is such a strange. Now that I'm an adult, I look back at sort of how my experience of acting and how that's changed now. Not that I do it that much anymore, but like everyone is always older than you, and they know what's best, and it's a completely different dynamic than when you're an adult and you have more autonomy and people will listen to what you have to say and will think about like whatever suggestions you might have. Um, yeah, but that took a lot of time to get there.
100%. And also because, you were so little. I don't even want to call you young. You were little. You were a little child when you entered a big person world.
Yeah.
Um, but talk us through this a little bit. So 7 years, round two with the show was 7 years. When you came towards the end of your 7 years, were you, again, another pivotal moment? That was such a surprise. I had no idea you were going to be like, I came back again. 7 years,
And I
second
came
time.
back.
Whoa. So, so what then towards the end of those 7 years? Because I mean, it's such a massive part of your life, and such a huge part of your identity. So, and
Yeah.
how old were you at that point?
So when I came the beginning of the 7 years, I was 24, 25. Um, yeah, so this that sort of ended, hmm, yeah, about like 2 years ago. Um, yeah, which is kind of recent, but um, yeah, it was yeah, there's so much that there's so much
No,
that happened.
I understand, Lexi, but
I'm like
sweetheart,
having flashbacks. I'm like, where do
oh,
I start?
you're like, can we prolong this? Can we do episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 500 of the podcast to really truthfully tell the story? No, honey, how about this? Towards the end of that seventh year, which is also interesting because we always say that after 7 years, we are literally a completely new person. All of our cells have been renewed. We've gone through this whole
Mm.
life cycle. So there's something very symbolic there. But I wanted to ask, in that final year, did you know this might be the last year, or was this like a shock to you? Because again, you said so much happened.
Well, it was there, the writing was kind of on the wall, and I would say within that last year, there was a lot of stuff that happened in my personal life as well. I went through a really bad breakup. That was a 5 year relationship. So that was sort of like one pillar of my life that had just like fallen fallen over. And then I had this career pillar, and I was like, I feel like this is ending too. And I had already started my production company around the same time. And but it was actually through the show that was really what inspired me to do that, because it's such a unique position to be in when you're on a show for that long and you've been there longer than some of the writers have been there. You get this opportunity, and because there's so many characters on the show, there's like 20 people, so continuity is can be a bit tricky, but also very important. So I was able to work with the writers and the producers on my character in terms of like mostly through like continuity, um, depending on where the storyline was going, making, suggestions here and there, a bit of script editing, if need be. And so through that process, uh, I realized that I'm really interested in development, which is what I do now. I love working with writers. I thought that I wanted to be a writer, and so I started taking some classes at UCLA Extension, and then I realized that it's just as difficult as acting. And I was like, I like working with writers. I think it's the ADHD thing as well, just forcing yourself to sit down and write when you don't feel like it. It can be a bit of a challenge.
But I love this, and I think oh, there's so much here. Let's for listeners out there, will you just describe a little bit about what continuity is on a set?
Uh,
I mean,
yeah.
for me it's obvious, but it's not for listeners. So just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's mostly when I say continuity, mostly continuity of the character. So looking at the entire history of that character. So she had gone through so many different things. She was in an abusive relationship at one point. She came out to her parents as being, in the LGBTQ plus community. And so she has this whole tapestry. And depending on who she's talking to, the different dynamics, like there are certain conversations that she may or may not have with certain people, and just a history that the writers may or may not be fully aware of. because it's difficult to keep track of so many people.
Absolutely, I love that, and this was exactly the answer I was hoping you were gonna share with us. I loved it so much. And Lexi, I want to ask again. So there you are, into season whatever, and however many years you've been on the show at this moment, and from the moment you started getting the idea until you actually took the action to walk over. And I don't know how you approach it. If you spoke to someone who spoke to someone, because everything is, it's normally, we don't normally just go straight to the source, right? There's always like a transition that happens when one is on set and one goes, maybe they're not fully aware, or have they thought about? So talk us through that a little bit. How was that process for you? How was that journey?
It was always fairly formal. I never wanted to step on anyone's toes, and I obviously have so much respect for the writers on the show. So it was mostly I would email either the writers or have a meeting with the producers and just sort of talk about it out in the open and just give my suggestions based on, I would always give a breakdown of why I think that this is probably what we should do. So yeah, it was mostly like doing like proposals ahead of time. So I didn't like spring anything like on set on that moment, being like, we're gonna change this. Because that doesn't go over well. But yeah, and I think that it showed, or I hope that it showed that I cared a lot about my character and the show and wanting to do it justice. And I wanted to be to honor that. Yeah.
Oh my God, Lexi, I love this so much. And share this with us, if you can share a little bit about what was the character you played. And, so because I love the fact that for me, this is just so gorgeous, because everything is about what we care about in life, right? And so the fact that you had genuine love, genuine care for the story and for the being, of this woman that you were portraying. Talk to us about her. So who was she?
Yeah, it's so interesting when you're playing someone for that long, because they do become a part of you. Like, even though I haven't had the experiences that she has had, through research and obviously even just through acting the scenes, the physicality, the physical, the mental, all of it, the emotional, becomes sort of like a part of you. So yeah, the very first like really major storyline that I was nominated for an Emmy the first time when I was 17 was a teen abuse storyline. So I was in an abusive relationship with my boyfriend at the time. And I remember doing a lot of research because that's such a heavy thing. And fortunately, I don't have any personal experience with that. But I knew how important the storyline was. And so I visited some shelters, some women's shelters, got to speak to certain people, trying to find whatever things that I could find on the internet. There's so much information out there, so many blogs, people writing about their own personal experiences. And we got to play that storyline out in real time. So it went on for months. So I think also just living in that for several months and like seeing the progression of how someone ends up in that situation and to sort of the abuse. Like I wanted to do my own stunts for that as well. So I worked outside of during lunch basically in order for me to do it, because I really wanted to for myself, but I think also just for to really to fully experience it. I mean, obviously I'm not being physically harmed, but to just be able to act it out, to really have that, to embody that, was important for me. Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I think I think a lot of the time, and again, listeners out there, I always say the same thing because I have so many gorgeous artists like yourself on the pod, and I'm always like, listen, this is relatable for everyone. I think so often, whatever we do for a living, or whatever persona we share with the world, it can be, we never really know why anyone does what they do until we sit down with them and they feel safe enough to share. And so that thing of, from the outside world, I think so often people can go, oh, acting, that must be so much fun. Kind of like that thing you were saying, right? It took a while before, certain people in your family really sort of, well, you felt they really fully understood that you did this not just because it was fun, it was a playful thing. You did this because you deeply cared about it and you felt a deep sense of responsibility because you're portraying, people who this is not just a story, this is their life. And there is so much weight to that. And it's such a great honor to be allowed to have that role. So the way you just shared that with us, I just, yeah, I'm absolutely, enamored with you, Alexi. I think that's amazing. That was just so heartfelt. So thank you for sharing that. Now let's jump you forward in time a little bit. So there you are, like you said part of the writing was on the wall. Lots of things took place. Lots of things happened. And then that moment when you get that final, whose ever decision it was, or whether it was also partly yours, I don't know. But at some point, that you're not coming back on set. So a whole era and a whole part of you playing this woman, right? And being this woman with all of her years of experiences, right? Had come to a close. So, how did that feel?
It was bittersweet. I think, but I feel like it was a long enough time that I'm okay to say goodbye. And I know that she'll always be a part of who I am. So I just carry that with me. So it's not like I'm saying goodbye in a way, but yeah, I think it was time to move on to something else and to yeah, it's a bit scary. It's like it was a bit of like free fall. Um, because it's easy to get sort of comfortable being on one of those shows when then you have to go back out into the world of auditioning and doing all of that. And yeah, I was really lucky to sort of not have to do that for a while. And I was like having to reevaluate, like it was the first time in a long time that I had sort of questioned, like, am I still passionate about this? Is this really what I want to continue to do? And starting the production company was sort of the first step in that direction of feeling like I wanted to have more um, creative control and yeah, be more involved in like shaping stories. Um, and I've always struggled with like pitching myself, but I find it really easy to pitch other people. Um, and so if I can help like champion other people's stories and be a part of that journey, like that to me is much more rewarding.
100%. Can you tell us how you came up with the name? So it's Camden Productions, right?
Yeah, Camden Way. It's the street that I grew up on back in Oklahoma. So it's where it all began.
Oh my God, I love it.
But it's funny because it sounds I mean, Camden is obviously in London. So it's kind of a funny, and I didn't know that I was moving here. And it was like this funny full circle moment. But had it not been for the breakup, had it not been for leaving the show, like these two major pillars of my life that were keeping me in LA, I would have never considered it just didn't feel like an option like to move somewhere else, especially outside of the country. But um it was actually after the breakup that I went on like a soul searching backpacking journey, like a 6 month backpacking trip. And I had a friend that lived in London and I was staying with her for the summer and I just I mean, the summertime in London, people who know, it's like magical. Um, so I was just, yeah, I fell in love. And I had done like a summer program, a Shakespeare program back when I was 20 at RADA. And so that was sort of my first taste of like living here. I mean, living in the dorms, but living in Soho. And it was just a really fun part of my life. But then to come back in my later years and experience it in a different way uh, was, yeah, sort of what solidified my decision and went through the process of getting my visa, which is, as I'm sure a lot of people know, is not easy, but um, yeah, did that and booked a one-way flight and no job lined up. Was just like, I'm gonna give myself 6 months and see what happens. And yeah, here I am.
Wow. So how long have you been in London now? Because I met you. We met like, what was it like? Was it last summer? Or was it? I feel like it was 18 months ago, but I don't know. Maybe it was last summer.
So we met through a mutual friend of ours, and who the mutual friend, we did a house swap. And so we had never met.
Oh my God. This is so movie-like. I didn't
We
know
we
this.
joked about it because it's like the holiday because
It is, which is
she
my
literally
favorite movie.
she literally yeah. So I stayed in her flat in London and she went to my place in LA. We'd never met. And we became friends after that because then I moved here. It was sort of when I was in this transition period of like kind of doing a bit of back and forth until I could like fully move here. Um but yeah.
Oh
And
my
yeah, we
God.
joked about it. She was like, "Oh, I'm looking for my Jack Black," and I'm like, "I'm looking for my Jude Law." It was so cute. Yeah.
Oh my God, I never knew this, Lexi. I can't believe because we've met a few times and I always love our conversations, hence why, I asked you to come on the podcast. And but I didn't know this. And this is just adding extra sparkle and magic and jingle bells to this connection. No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I recommend it. I mean, it was a really both got well, I'll speak for myself. I got really lucky and yeah, have an amazing friendship out of that. So yeah.
Fantastic. And sorry, so just coming back to you, I'm like did that through me like in the best of ways. Coming back to you, so how long did you say you've been in London now?
So 2 years officially, but there was a bit of back and forth. Just well, I also I I was here for the 6 months, like I said that I was going to be. And it was not the best timing on my part, but it's not like you can plan when like things happen. So the writer's strike happened around that time. And we had just sort of the industry had just sort of recovered from COVID. And then we're hit with the writer's strike, then the actor's strike. And it was like the worst time to try to find a job. So, at that same time, because I never had the opportunity to go to university when I was on the show, I had thought about maybe going and getting my bachelor's. So I had applied, but I wasn't like for sure. I was like, I've always focused on works. Education was sort of secondary. Um, but I was like, maybe this is the time. And so I just applied to two schools though, um, back in California. And I applied to UCLA and Berkeley, which are very ambitious schools. But I was like, I don't want to go. I can be very all or nothing. So I was like, I don't want to go unless I'm going to go to one of these two schools. And it worked out. So I got into Berkeley, which is in Northern California. And it was, yeah, I was shocked because it was never, like I said, school was something that I never really um, prioritized. I think also, well, because I started acting at such a young age, but also because of like my learning differences, like with my ADHD, it was always just such a struggle that I always felt a bit inferior when it came to just academics in general. And so that was sort of a moment that was surprising for me and changed how I view myself So it was actually, I think, a really important journey for me now looking back, one that was necessary that didn't have to do with career because I think I've always been focused on career. And this forced me to prioritize something else for the first time. And it was like, it was so uncomfortable. It was so confronting. It was so confronting because it was like, I must produce, I must be productive, I must be doing something, I must be creating something, I must be producing value. And obviously that showed me that I really need to separate who I am versus what I do. And yeah, school allowed me to do that.
Wow, amazing. And how long was this amazing education then?
So I had taken a few classes basically online during COVID. So I had an associate's degree, and so I used that to then transfer to Berkeley. And so that was 2 years. So that's why I said there was a bit of back and forth going on because I had my visa. I mean, two amazing things that happened basically at the same time. I got my artist visa and I got into school and I was like, how can I make these two things work? And I somehow found a way because I think I'm just delusional in that way where I did it. I was like, this has to be done. Both have to be done in some way. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I loved it. And I also love this thing of what you said, there's a difference between what I do and who I am, right? And so, which, again, everyone can relate to this thing of like, a sense of identity can be so tied up in what we're able to produce or what we're able to, quote unquote, achieve. And this thing of like, you matter just because you exist, I can really relate to that. So that's really powerful. Thanks for sharing that, Lexi. So here you are. You came back to London after your studies. And what are you doing now? Who are you being now? How is life now, Lexi? It's summer in London, which we know is your favorite time of year then. So
it is beautiful. Although it's, as an American, I do miss my air conditioning.
oh, okay. So Carl has got he's got the one room with like a massive portable air conditioning unit that is almost bigger than our entire flat. But the man needs his aircon, so I'm not going to stand in the way. Some things are just too close to home, and aircon is that for him.
Well, no, I'd say the biggest struggle is probably the winters, actually. So I'm fine. I will take the sun and the heat. I can live with that. It's the not seeing sun for like 6 months. But we live in proximity. Like this is one of the many reasons why I love living here is I can hop on a plane and be in another country like in 2 hours and experience the sunshine and it's amazing. Yeah,
100%.
what am I doing now?
Yes.
So I'm a recent graduate. And simultaneously while I was in school, it has been tricky to juggle work and school, but I have found a way somehow. I think when life just throws things at you, it's only until after you've done it that you're like, how did I do that? How did I
Yeah.
juggle that?
You know what? This is such a good point, Lexi, because you did it because you had to. And you
Yeah.
only have to when you feel like there is no other way. And it's actually like a super powerful place to be. Because we have endless choices, right? Like if we're sitting down and we're like we're not really sure where to go, it's usually because we're in quite a privileged position. Like we're not in a life or death situation, because then we wouldn't be sitting there going right or left, right? So first of all, we are in a spot it's pretty good, and then secondly, you will take action or you will make stuff happen one way or another if you need to.
Mm.
And I think that's a really important factor because, again, look at your life, right? So things came out of desire, but then they also came out of necessity. And so, and I think, again, if you're not a freelancer out there listening to us and you're like, well, that's all great for Josie and Lexi. I'm not in the performing arts. So, hey, how can I relate? Well, you can, because life itself is creative. Like you said, life threw this at me, right? There was a curveball, something else happened, right? It's life. we can have the perfectly manuscripted script. We can have signed up for the perfect role in life. I'm the mother, I'm the daughter, I'm the accountant, I'm whatever. And then all of a sudden life comes in and goes, here's the curveball, now deal with it, right? Like it happens to all of us. But the point is, you make it happen out of necessity. You make it happen because you have to. And so sometimes when you're in those moments of life where you're like, I can't wait to get on the other side and one day I can sit on a podcast with Josie and talk about it, right? I get that. But I think just knowing that, like you said, you look back over your life and you're like, now it all makes sense. Now I can see, that was necessary. This is how I grew. This was the gift, even though it was really challenging, all of that. But you did it because you had to. And we're so much more resilient. We are so much more resilient than we ever think, right? So I totally get that. I want to share one quick little quote with you that it popped into my head this morning. Always happens in the morning, and sorry for the picture, but always happens when I'm in the shower. Best things happens in the shower. This thing, right? It's just, I don't know if it's a soap in the water. I don't know. For some reason, it happens in the shower. Could also just be that I've just rolled out of bed and you're still in that better place in your, beta thing in your mind, whatever. But anyway, and the thing was, it said something along the lines of, you have to fall in love with your future more than the comfort of your current timeline. Right?
Yeah.
Because usually we only change if we're pushed into a corner and someone else is going like got a gun to our head and we're like, yes, I'll change now. Right? But if we want to move instead of being moved, if we want to move instead of being moved, if we want to move out of desire, we have to start cultivating that desire. We have to start to go, can I fall in love with a future that hasn't even happened? And it may never happen in the ways that I'm praying for it right here, right now. And I have to be okay with that. But I have to choose to fall in love with that desire and amp up that desire every single day, right? And I mean, listening to your life, I think this must sound so in line in so many times of your life, right? And again, for listeners out there who's not in the performing arts, every single day we wake up is uncertain. You might think like, well, I'm going to work, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm just here to go, well, we can die anytime. So everything is uncertain for all of us, right? But just that thing of like, can we fall in love with our future, the promise, the potential of the future, a different future, perhaps a brighter future, more than the comfort the comfort of our current timeline or even our past timeline. Yeah. Anyway.
No, it's powerful. And I think choice, like I think that's something that we forget that we have. Obviously there's so much out of our control, but we can control how we react to things. We can make decisions based on the information that we have. And I think focusing on the agency that we have is very powerful, rather than just sitting back and feeling like life is happening to you. Yeah, I think those are a big shift for me, because there have been moments, especially with big decisions, where I get a bit like I freeze, like analysis paralysis of just fearing like I'm not going to make the right decision, and then just realizing that by even just not making a decision, I am making a decision. And you're never going to have enough information or all the information to make the best decision. And there's no such thing as the best decision either.
Oh my God, I love that. Truer words were never spoken, Lexi. I can so relate. I want to ask you a funny question. If you were doing character development for your own character, i.e. for Lexi Ainsworth, and you look back over your life, right? And you looked at where she's at now, and you know her entire story better than any, because hey ho, you are her, you lived her. What would be, so let's say you're going to the script writer right now and you're sitting them down, and, maybe you've got some, I know you're drinking tea, so you've got some great big tea cups there and you're drinking your favorite tea. Exactly. And you're sitting down with your script writer and you're like, hey, so actually, because you had received the script from the script writer and you're like, this is not really in line with the continuity of the character development of Lexi Ainsworth, that the way that I see her with everything she's been through, and I would like to make some notes. What would you say?
So am I the writer? I'm the writer of my story. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Or
you're
no?
you're a third person. You're looking
Okay.
you're looking at Lexi Ainsworth. So you're looking at yourself from the outside. You're the character developer. So like you know what your interest anyway. But you're going to the official script writer of Lexi Ainsworth's story, and you're like, hey, no.
Yeah, I think so basically how I want to have her move forward.
Kind of. And the script writer. Oh, okay. Let me give you this. The script
I'm
writer.
taking this question very
Oh,
seriously.
I love it, and so am I, because we care.
Yeah,
High
does we
five.
care? Yep.
The script writer is a metaphor for how you at times feel others might perceive you.
Mm,
Mm. That added a bit of weight, right? Mm.
yeah. Um, I think, I mean, kind of going back to what I was saying, I can be a bit indecisive about making a decision. Um, and I think that's something that I am getting better at, and just being more owning my choices, owning my decisions, past, present, all of it, owning it. Um, I think that's a big one for me. And just yeah, I think the other thing that we talked about is uncertainty, just embracing it, because we have no idea what tomorrow, but that's the if we just flip it and become excited about it rather than afraid of it, oh, it's powerful, but it's so scary, but it's like yeah, you're in constant free fall, and like you can be terrified or you can just like enjoy the ride. Like, and so I think I don't know if that answers the question, but those are the things that I feel like she's going to be doing more jumping, free falling. Yes. Yeah.
Leap, and the universe will catch you.
Yes. Yes. And like historically, if you look, I mean, we're here today, we're healthy, we're, you know, I'm very, very fortunate. And there have been so many moments in my life where I'm like, this could be the end of whatever. And somehow, some way, I have been protected or supported. Yeah. So I try to remind myself of that as well.
Oh my God. Okay, so this is really juicy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think this is so, so relevant for everyone listening, you know, because I do the same for myself as well. I do all of this where I'm like, hang on, Josie, you've had this feeling before. The circumstances might have looked different, right? The question you had in your head might have been different. The challenge might have been, the perceived challenge might have been different, but the physical experience of what you're experiencing right now, any kind of, you know, confusion, anxiety, not knowing, stress, whatever we want to, you know, whatever category we want to put that in. Just as you just said, I remind myself, you know, I've had this feeling before. I've been in this kind of like mental overthinking, this like ever downward spiraling loop over and over again. I've done that before, and somehow I always found a way, you know. So I love what you said, that thing of like look back over your life, and look not only for the success stories. You're like, oh yeah, you got the job, you got the license, you got, but look for like, okay, what happened the day that was taken away? How did you deal with that? Do you remember waking up in the middle of the night? Do you remember not being able to sleep? Do you remember, I don't know, you know, stress, you know, it appears for all of us in different ways, different shape, different forms, different personas, but we all experience it. And actually having a whole collection, maybe even writing down some of all those stories, and get really specific, like where in the body did it show up? What kind of, you know, thought patterns were occurring? What kind of words did you feel ashamed? Did you feel guilty? Did you feel like you wanted to hide? What was it? So that you get really kind of comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's like, I've been here before. I played this role before. Here we go again. Like, I love that. That is so powerful, Lexi. I really love it.
I mean, I think you said it perfectly, and that's such an amazing tool to be able to, like you said, like write it down, document it. So I think people can, I can forget where I was at a certain place in time emotionally, especially. But when you were just saying that story, I remember I had panic attacks leading up to going to school because of all of the stuff that I have experienced with school, all the anxiety. Like I've always, my mom would have to bring me medicine for my stomach because I would get stomach aches in like elementary school, and it was always such a stressful environment for me to be in, and it felt like my identity had like of being an actor of doing this thing is being stripped away from me. Thank God, because I it's not something that I want to I am me regardless of everything else. But yeah, for me it manifested with panic attacks, and I never had panic attacks before. So that was a very powerful uh but necessary time. So whenever I feel something, the shortness of breath come on, it's like, okay, I know, and I have the tools to ground myself and to do all the things, remind myself that, you have been here before and this is how we can get out of it.
Super
Yeah.
powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, that's just honestly this is everything, Lexi. Because I think the more we talk about these experiences, and it happens to everyone. Maybe someone is listening right now, and to a listener out there, you're going through a divorce, or your children are moving away, or again you didn't get a contract, or you did get a contract. Like honestly, anything can provoke and awaken anxiety, even the best experiences, because then it's like,
Yeah,
ah,
it
what
was
if it ends? Like you can love something and someone so much that you can be panic about that, right? So, you know.
yeah, and it was supposed to be a happy and exciting moment, and I turned it into this thing of being like, my life is like, I felt like I wasn't in control. I think it was a control thing. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I will just, on that happy note, I will show you this book I'm reading at the moment. Oh, you can't see it, but it's basically called The
Oh my
Perfectionist
gosh.
Guide to Losing Control.
I need to read that. Yeah.
It's honestly, honey, it's such a good book. And again, so what I love about the author is it's not a, oh my God, this is a terrible thing we need to get rid of. It's actually like, here's some amazing things. These are like the things that makes you like, this is superpower, kind of similar to ADHD, right? And then of
Yeah.
course, if if you don't hold space or acknowledge or embrace that there's also the other side of the coin, right? Because everything has two sides of the coins, and then a hell of a gray. It's never black and white. There's so much gray in life.
So
Embracing
much.
the grayness. Yeah, no, anyway, I'll send you a link to that, Lexi. My love, we've arrived at a point in the podcast where I always ask people, because I could speak to you all day, but let me ask you this question. So, as you've already given us so many good, amazing wisdom, so thank you so much, Lexi. But if you look back over your life, and if there was just, so everything that you went through, every time you were anxious, every time you did it anyway, every time you were like, shit, should I go? I mean, I'm sure Oklahoma is a great place, but should I go back to Camden Way in Oklahoma? Like all those moments, right? The moment where you like convinced your mom to take you to LA the first time. I absolutely love you, Lexi. The time when you were like, okay, all my pillows are gone away. I'm going to rucksack it up and unvisit it up for 6 months around the globe, right? And then to moving to London and then going to your, like maybe as you go to uni, like all these incredible choices, really courageous choices that you made. When you look back over your life, because I believe every single person holds a threat for humanity, right? Like we all hold, I call it like a secret recipe that can help someone else out there listening right now feel less alone in their life. So if there was just one or two, when you look back over your life, if there was just one or two soul messages for humanity, what would they be?
Ooh. There was something that you said a moment ago, uh, like harnessing that energy because there's two sides to the coin, and reframing things as well, I think is sort of what you were talking about. And I think one of the biggest reframes that I've had on my life is um, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a superpower, because I have always felt like, yeah, vulnerability, it exposes you. You're exposing your heart, knowing full well that it could be broken by life, by people, by so many different things. but by exposing your heart, by being vulnerable, like that requires so much strength and so much courage. And if you can continue to do that after getting hurt and all the things that happen to us in life, like it's impossible for anyone to come out unscathed, like especially children, like every child has we're little sponges, we're very sensitive beings. We've all experienced some level of trauma, but to be able to then get back up and to remain open, to keeping your heart open, I don't know of anything more courageous.
Oh my God. That is so powerful. I absolutely loved it so much. And I've been doing this podcast for a year and a half now, and I've spoken to some incredible people like yourself, people with crazy, amazing, heartbreaking, heart aching, heart healing stories. And every time people share a new story, a new perspective, no one has ever shared this in the way that you just did it. Oh, Lexi, thank you so much. I want to just share that this speaks to me so deeply, and I know that it speaks to everyone else out there. Summing it up into a little thing that I put in my book the other day, and it says, I have been heartbroken a million times, but each time it only broke more open. Yeah.
I got chills. It's exactly that.
I don't want to take anything away from your incredible moment, your incredible soul message, but I just wanted to share that because it resonates so deeply. And just like you said, like, look, listening to your story, and so many times you could have sheltered yourself, you could have put an armor around your heart, you could have been like, okay, I feel this vulnerability, but I'm just going to close my heart down and I'm going to be and it's like the most courageous thing we can do as a human being is to love, especially after the endless time that we've been rejected. It not just romantic love, but rejected by dreams we had, right? Friendships we had. Our life can be one big rejection, but if we keep going anyway, it's just so powerful. So anyway, Lexi, please stay on the line. It's been an absolute joy to be here with you. I know so many people all around the world will have felt so heard, so seen, so resonant with your story. And thank you so, so much. Lexi, I will put in the show notes where people can find you, but can you also share us, have you got a website? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Sure. So on Instagram, it's _Lexi Ainsworth. And then my website is CamdenWayProductions.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And dear listeners, have the most beautiful summer solstice, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you. Thank you.